Well, hi, this is Custom Works and I am Clint Allen. Recently in the comments I was asked about what about the front main seal? Well, I'm going to cover that real quick, and I'm going to also cover, probably more importantly, what nobody's showing you on the old interweb or on YouTube. The most important thing everybody is missing when they change out their front main seal or their low pressure oil pump. Let's check this out here. So if you're going to change your front main seal, that is located on the front of your low pressure oil pump. Now after these two here, I'm going to just take a real quick discussion about low pressure oil pumps and your options. Probably better than changing out the seal, but nonetheless, some people don't have that kind of money, so we're going to show that. Also, I'm going to show a real quick tutorial at the end of the video on what you need to do in order to get this bad boy off, all right? So, you're going to need to order yourself a brand new seal. And in this particular case, you know, we always talk about Ford OEM. This doesn't make a big difference, okay? Mal or Molly, however you pronounce that, Felpro, they all make good replacement gaskets for this. One of the things first off that I want you to check before you start tearing into your truck is this is the bolt that holds on the harmonic balancer. Make sure it's not leaking from here. When you put your harmonic balancer on, of course you've got the keyway, and in this keyway right here, that RTV could be worn out, and that's maybe where the leak is coming from. So all you'd have to do is just remove the bolt, put some fresh RTV in there, tighten it on down to torque specs, and you know, down the road you go. You actually didn't have a front main seal leak. But for here, keep it in mind to everybody watching, I try to make this where you can do it in your garage, okay? It wouldn't serve any purpose for me to film this in my fancy shop with a $1,200 press and all the items that go along with that. This is so you can do this, because there's some people that still in the comments go, I'm trying to help you so you can do this at home with every general tool that is available in your garage, okay? So to get this out, we just need something. This is where the seal sits right here. This is the seal. This is where the seal sits in right here. So we just got to catch the bitter edge of this. You can have this sitting on the block and the edge of this sitting, so you're able to knock that out. It's not the easiest thing, but it's not the most difficult either, if that makes any sense. Alright, so voila, we got her. This is the old seal right here. We're going to take some brake clean this all out. Don't go after it with Scotch-Brite or anything like that. Get yourself some Threadlock. Put some Threadlock around here. That's going to help act as a lubricant. And we don't need to go crazy at all. Just a nice thin layer. Down in the description, I'm going to have which type of thread lock to use on this. And as long as we're at that, if you're new here, down in the description, I have all of my playlists, Tech Talk videos, the hands-on videos, the really in depth from start to end on injector rebuilding, what they do, how they work. I mean, I went very, very in depth on this. Huge amount of videos just on injectors themselves. We also have our videos that are controversial. So down there, you'll find it in the description. And don't be afraid to jump into my main page in my videos. And there's also ones in there too that you can go view. And you'll know which ones you view because on YouTube they leave a little red streak on the bottom showing that you viewed that one. So you know which ones you didn't watch. So you got your thread sealer on there. Let's just take a board, real easy here. Let's not get crazy. What we don't want to do is warp this seal. Get that bad boy covered up. So what we've done is we've got it flush, but what we need to do is make sure that it is sitting inside and it's hitting on the bottom of the low pressure oil pump housing. So, tuna can. This way we don't warp the seal. And yeah, you'll bastardize the can. And there we go. You have your seal all set. It's ready to go. It's inset. Now, when you go put this back on, make sure you put just a little bit of oil on here. I know there's a lot of people out there like, don't put oil on the seal. This one here, you want to put a little bit of the engine oil on that seal. Make sure that when you put the factory pump back together, it's marked saying dampener. Make sure that is in the correct direction. When you pull it off, make sure you look. So anyways, for now, we'll set this aside and move on to what everybody's missing. On the harmonic balancer, whether you're going to change that seal or you're going to put a new low pressure oil pump on the back, on the inside is a sleeve. This sleeve right here needs to be changed. 20-year, 30-year-old trucks, 100, 200, 300, 400,000 miles old seal cutting its way in to that sleeve that's on here. So let's take a chisel or a heavy-duty screwdriver. And voila, right there we have it. That is on out. Now I have mine already cleaned up, and we don't have to worry about marring this when we go after it with a chisel or a screwdriver or whatever tool that you would like to use, because we're putting a new sleeve back on there. What we don't want is a bunch of gouges in it where you can't get that back on, and it's going to cause this to distort. If you do get that aggressive with it, sand it down, all right? So get it all cleaned up. Now this has a bevel on it right here. That's got to be facing up. Now there's different thread lock. I'm just going to use this right here because that's all I have in my shop. But the correct thread lock will be down in the description again. This is going to help keep it in place, even though it is a tight fit. So there we got that. This we got to be a little bit more careful with. This exhaust piece right here. She's got the old 2.5 on it. It's a perfect fit. Real careful. Get it set first so it's actually sitting, so when you start with the big hammer or mallet or whatever. Now you can do this if you have one of those small little hydraulics in the garage for pressing. You know, go right ahead, not a problem. Once again, I'm just showing you this because this is probably what you have in your shop available to you. All right. So the sleeve itself, you'll know that you've got it on there because it needs to be touching the bottom of the harmonic balancer. So it's as simple as that. Now another way of doing it is taking the harmonic balancer. Yeah, I know it's cast, but the theory still works. Put that in the freezer. So you can take the sleeve then, put it into the toaster oven, put it into the regular oven, whatever, you know, make sure the wife isn't around. She's going to freak out that you're putting car parts in the oven. But heat that up to 400 degrees. Remove it obviously with the pliers and get the two mated real quick. You can actually, doing it that way, just actually almost push it on and just lightly tap it down into place. It works really slick. So there's another option for you. So make sure when you put this back on, once again, that little keyway here, that we take RTV, gray RTV specifically, and put it in that keyway so when you get it on there and you put the bolt back on and get it torqued down, that it's not going to leak from the keyway. What we don't want to see happen, I've seen this in a few videos, is they put RTV actually right on that. No, bad idea. Don't do that. This needs to be torqued down and held to the crank at a specific rate. If you're putting something in there that's going to act as a rubber band, you're going to have some issues later on down the road. So let's move on into the studio here, and I'm going to go over 3 options for a low pressure oil pump, and then we'll also go through a real quick tutorial on what you need to remove on your truck in order to get at the low pressure oil pump, whether you're going to be changing the seal or whether you're going to be putting on a different one. So here we are in the old studio, and let's talk about the options on your 7.3L. First off, it is a G-rotor design, and that G-rotor design works like this. So you have the gist of what is being discussed here. So the factory OEM pump has a 14-tooth gear in it, basically. The exterior part of that G-rotor is 15 insets. Now that pump was designed to operate that engine, but the problem is that over the years, once again, 20, 30-year-old trucks, oil changes not being done properly, you have the blow-by, normal with diesels, that goes through the piston, ends up in the oil, ends up going through that oil pump, low pressure oil pump. And it is wearing down right where that gear passes the tooth, wears down that, and it allows that oil to pass through. So your pressure is always constantly dropping, which is one of the problems with runnability in the 7.3. Over time, with the miles that they have on them, that wears down and doesn't push enough oil through the engine, causing mainly runnability with the injectors. Now, the 14-tooth OEM, great option. If you're a purist, great option. Nothing wrong with it. The problem is it's really expensive. Most of them, I mean, if you could find a really good deal on an OEM $250 to $330. A better option is the Melling. It's a 10 tooth, and that gives you 10% more in flow, okay? So right there, we're going to have a better runability of the truck. It's a better built pump to begin with, and the flow is going to increase through the whole engine, of course. Now, that one right there, it depends on the time of the year. I usually pick them up for about $130. With everything that's going on in the economy right now, and we have all this scare with imports and tariffs and stuff like that. Geez, when you're watching this video, this could be somewhere around $150, $160, $170. But nonetheless, it's a better choice, more flow, and a hell of a lot cheaper than what the OEM one is. Now, we got the Mac Daddy coming up here. The Mac Daddy, and that's displayed over here. This is a high volume unit. And, you know, if you got the means, this is the best way to go. If you're going to change that oil pump and you got the means, just jump to this right away. I'm telling you, it will make your engine run a hell of a lot better. It'll start faster. It'll run better. You'll have lower EGTs. Yes, you will. You know, we're not talking 1,000, you know, lower EGT. We're talking 50 EGT, somewhere around there. Either which way, the stock one at idle, when hot, gives you 20 PSI, okay? This Mac Daddy gives you at idle 32 PSI. At cruising range, the stock unit gives you 40 PSI, and this big old Mac Daddy here is going to give you 55 PSI. Now keep in mind that this numbers that I'm giving you is when that pump is brand spanking new. Now if you have the pump on yours that has never been changed, and you're at 200, 300, 400, 600,000 miles, I can guarantee you that the clearance within that pump is allowing oil to pass through there, and you're not getting that kind of PSI at all. So these are all the options that you have available to you. Once again, more oil flow in a Hiigh engine is always going to be a good thing. And plus it'll help the engine last longer too, because the more oil that you can get through all the bearings and all the engine up to the turbo, stuff like that, is always going to be a better deal. So let's move on now to the step-by-step, boom, 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 break it on down of what you need to take apart on your truck to quickly and efficiently change out that low pressure oil pump, or the seal if you're going to go that way.
Welcome to our step-by-step guide on replacing your vehicle's oil pump. Today we'll walk you through the entire process, ensuring you have all the knowledge you need to get the job done right. Let's start by preparing everything we need. For this job, you'll need the following tools: an M208 Melling L-pop, housing, seal, inner gear, outer gear, instructions, a fan pulley holding wrench 303, 478, which is 2 1/8 inches, a fan clutch nut wrench 303, 214, which is 1 7/8 inches or 47 millimeters, a harmonic balancer puller, a harmonic balancer install tool, a flywheel holding tool 303, 103, various metric and SAE wrenches and sockets, a 1/2-inch drive breaker bar, and a 27 by 27 inch piece of cardboard. Most of these tools are available for rent at your local auto parts store. First, we need to disconnect the ground cable on both batteries. Next, remove the Dega bottle cap and drain about 1 gallon of coolant out of the radiator drain valve. And of course, make sure the engine is cold before you start. Now remove the upper hose from the Dega bottle. Then take off the lug nut wrench from the radiator support by removing the wing nut and hold down bracket. Finally, remove the 3 8mm bolts from the Degas bottle. Lift the Dega bottle up and place it to the side. The lower hose will remain attached. Remove the clamp from the upper radiator hose. Coolant can still be in this hose, so be careful. Place the hose out of the way, held back by wire or a bungee cord. Remove the two 8mm bolts holding the fan shroud to the radiator support. Slide a piece of cardboard in between the radiator and the shroud. This will protect the fragile radiator fins from damage during this install. Using the fan pulley holding wrench, place it around the water pump pulley bolts. Next, using the fan clutch nut wrench, place it on the fan clutch nut. To break the torque, you will need to apply a counterclockwise force to the fan clutch nut wrench while holding the fan pulley holding wrench. Now, for OBS and F450 or 550, turn clockwise to loosen. This is best accomplished using two people. Once the fan clutch nut is loose, spin the fan counterclockwise to remove it from the spindle. The fan is heavy, and when free, will fall into the radiator. So, be careful when backing it off. Once the fan is off the spindle, you can lift the fan and shroud out of the truck. The cardboard will help protect the radiator. Using a 1/2-inch drive breaker bar or long ratchet, release the serpentine belt tensioner spring pressure by applying a counterclockwise force. While applying the force, reach below the tensioner and lift the tensioner holding clip to engage the lock to keep the tension off of the belt. When engaged, slowly release the force on the breaker bar. Finally, remove the serpentine belt off of the pulleys and remove it from the truck. Alright, let's move on to removing the harmonic balancer and the low-pressure oil pump. For automatic trucks, remove the 4 bolts from the transmission torque converter cover and install a flywheel holding tool, or you can have a helper hold the flywheel. Now, if you have a manual truck, make sure the truck is in a low gear with the emergency brake set. Using a 15/16" socket, remove the harmonic damper retaining bolt torqued to 212 foot-pounds by turning counterclockwise. Install the harmonic balancer removal tool onto the harmonic balancer. Use the 3/8" 16 bolts and install them fully into the balancer. Make sure the jack screw centering cone is installed and large enough to engage in the bevel of the crankshaft. Apply sufficient torque to the jack screw to pull the balancer off of the crankshaft. Caution, the balancer is heavy and when pulled free can drop and cause damage or injury. Verify the crankshaft keyway remains on the crankshaft. Remove the 4 10mm bolts holding the L-pop onto the front cover. Lightly tap the oil pump housing with a rubber mallet to break the seal loose. Pull the housing off of the alignment pins. Ensure the alignment pins remain with the engine and not with the pump housing. If they come out, simply reinstall them into the front cover again. Alright, let's move on to the installation of the Melling L-pop. First, remove the outer gyrotor. Next, take off the inner gyrotor from the crankshaft. Before installing, place the Melling gyrotors in clean motor oil. It's important to note that the Melling gyrotors are shorter than the original equipment manufacturer gyrotors, but don't worry, the new pump housing will compensate for this. You must use the supplied housing with the new gyrotors. Now install the inner gyrotor onto the crankshaft, followed by the outer gyrotor. Be careful not to force these onto each other. They are precision machined parts and will fit well when aligned correctly. Install the oil pump housing seal onto the housing. A dab of RTV or grease may be used to hold this in place while installing the housing. Install the housing onto the front cover using the alignment pins to ensure the pump is correctly installed. Install the 4 10mm bolts and torque to 15 foot-pounds. Clean the harmonic balancer inner bore to ensure no contamination. Lightly apply a small amount of engine oil to the bore. Align the harmonic balancer with the crankshaft and keyway. The balancer should slide onto the crankshaft easily for an inch or so when aligned properly. Alright, we're in the final stretch now. It's time to do the final assembly and checks. Make sure everything is in place and properly secured. Double-check all the connections and fasteners. This is crucial to ensure the reliability and safety of the engine. Now let's install the harmonic balancer installation tooling. First, use the M16 by 2.0 adapter on the jack screw and thread it into the crankshaft. Next, install the pressure roller bearing followed by the jack screw nut. Apply sufficient torque to the nut to press the damper back onto the crankshaft fully. Reposition the flywheel holding tool, or have a helper hold the flywheel while you tighten. Then, remove the harmonic balancer installation tooling and install the bolt and retaining washer using a 15/16" socket. Torque it down to 212 foot-pounds. Make sure everything is tight and secure. Remove the flywheel holding tool and reinstall the torque converter cover plate and 4 bolts, torquing them to 15 foot-pounds. Next, reinstall the serpentine belt following the routing diagram. Once installed, apply counterclockwise torque to the tensioner to release the tensioner lock clip. Install the fan and shroud from the top of the engine. Make sure the fan shroud lower tabs engage the lower slots. Then, thread the fan onto the water pump pulley spindle. Tighten using the fan pulley holding wrench and the fan clutch nut wrench. Torque to between 84 and 112 foot-pounds. Alright, let's move on to the final bolt tightening. First, remove the protective cardboard. Next, reinstall the two 8mm bolts into the fan shroud and torque them to 80 inch-pounds, which is about 6 foot-pounds. Now install the upper radiator hose onto the radiator and secure it with the clamp. Then, move the Dega bottle back into position. Install the three 8mm bolts and torque them to 80 inch-pounds. Remember, the shorter bolt is for the front mounting tab. Reinstall the upper hose to the Dega bottle and secure it with the clamp. Top off the coolant and install the Degas bottle cap. Next, reinstall the lug wrench and the hold-down clamp and wing nut assembly. Reinstall the battery ground cables. Ensure the engine oil is topped off from any loss. Start up the engine and check for leaks. Get the engine and coolant up to operating temperatures and recheck the coolant level. Add more coolant as necessary.